Hey guys, Mark Holmes here, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Jobu Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. I'm actually getting ready to join in with West Coast on his live stream here, so let's see if it will work. I know this isn't my normal night or anything else, but you know, trying to spread the mojo and everything else. Okay, let's see if we're connecting here. Hopefully everybody's doing good tonight. Okay. Join in with computer audio.
It'd be way higher.
Yeah.
But you know the thing about it, Boss Cowboy? I mean, if you forget, I say this because people always say, "But what if this happens?" People never say, "What if like good stuff happens?" Like, what if you win the lottery? Then guess what? Then I ain't got to worry about other stuff. And we're in Dallas every day. So guess what? What if I'm gonna do the what ifs? I throw the what if on Tony Romo. What if Tony Romo never got hurt? He'd probably be the greatest quarterback of all time. But guess what? You still gotta equate that into the situation.
Yeah, you gotta equate injuries in it. You can't take it out because you want to make some swim.
It's so much a part of the game.
It's part of the game. And we do that a lot. We say, what if, like you said, what if Romo didn't get hurt? Or what if Winston never got hurt? No, you gotta add that in because that's happened. That happens. So we can't take that out of the equation to bump him up. If you because you know it makes me sick to my stomach. It's like you hear this all the time. The best ability is what? You hear that all the time until it's time to counter for Dak. You know what I mean? Until when it's time to counter for Dak, now you want to take it away. Now you want to say, but if he was, but if this was a fifth, we'll all be drunk too. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things to where, like, let's keep it all the way fair. We see that Wentz is made of glass, and you have to factor that into his greatness. You have to weigh that into even where he ranks. If you just think you can take that out, you're not being fair to a real comparison.
Absolutely. And then think about this. What people will do also, what I've seen people do is this. They will use injuries as if they feel a player is purposely going out there to get injured. Like, I honestly think people be like, oh, well, Romo was always hurt. Well, you got to factor that in the game, but you got to understand that is not the point of them playing football, is to purposely get hurt. But guess what? That still has to be put into the salad.
Yeah.
You still have to put that into the salad of the equation. You want to know why? Because when they go to numerate these guys and pay these guys, you think they're not going to equate, you don't think they're not going to take that in consideration? I mean, honestly, as much as Jerry Jones said that they're not going to take Ezekiel Elliott's, I'm not going to say possible suspension because I don't like put it in the air, but whatever this situation is, this bubble of bad news, the fact that Jerry Jones said that they're not going to take it in consideration lets me know that what? They're going to take it in consideration. You know what I'm saying? All this stuff matters. The goal of the NFL team is to pay you less.
Yeah, fact.
And I'm going to tell you who said that, with my boy Camardi from the Jets. He said, West Coast, the goal of the NFL, everything, the owners' meetings, everything that is structured. Because think about this, Boss Cowboy. And I got, hey, y'all, I know y'all can't see him because he ain't said nothing yet.
I don't want to be
surprise guest. He ain't turned the song yet.
Yeah, he's on mute. I'm muted, Mark.
You're muted?
He on, you know.
Wait a minute. Am I muted?
You know what I'm saying?
You're on mute. There it is. You off now. You ready?
I thought I hit it before, man. Is it me? Or you sound a little bit garbled.
Me?
You got to turn it down a little bit, and he got to plug his Ethernet cord in. He thought he was going to let him slip, bro.
Oh, man, it is my Ethernet
sound
cord,
like
man.
You kind of like
sounding like
water
Romo
or something.
here.
Okay, because see, I'm kind of old and stuff kind of, sounds funny to me, which might sound normal to anybody else. But Boss Cowboy, I am embarrassed to ask you this question. Okay, did I meet you in Dallas during the Philadelphia game?
You did.
I did. Because I was going through my pictures. I said, wait a minute. That's Boss Cowboy in me. I said, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, me, you, and your son, we took a couple of pictures, man. And then the crazy thing that you did, Mark, I don't know why you did it, but we was all sitting there. We was talking football, right?
Uh-huh.
And all the players came in. it was Fredericks, it was Zach, and it was Heath. Right? They all came in. And guess what? OG Mark did. Mark grabbed me and said, "Come on."
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know. What shit?
He just grabbed me and he said, "Come on." And so then he took me to the room, and then West Coast gave me the room. But Mark pulled me in there like we getting ready to interview these guys. He pulled me and said, "Come on." I said, "God, no."
You know, Boss Cowboy, turn your mic down a little bit.
It's too loud.
Yeah.
Okay.
No matter what I do, man, I always stay in trouble, man. Mine called in my show last night, man, and talking. Man, you always politically correct. You got your people coming into my channel messing with me, and I'm just like, damn, man. I try to look out for everybody. I didn't know, man. I didn't know. Yeah.
That showed me a lot about you, man. And you could ask West Coast. Ever since then, I always spoke high because you didn't know me from Adam, but you was like, "Hey, man, this guy must be a good guy." And you just grabbed me. You said, "Come on, we're getting ready to interview these guys." And I didn't even know you. You know, we were just talking football. So you could have been, pulling this. But obviously, we was vibing good because you trusted me real quick. You said, "Come on, let's go. We're getting ready to interview these guys."
Don't put that out there because it might get me in trouble. It's like, oh, this guy's a loose cannon, man. So don't do nothing with him and stuff. But my apologies on that one because I didn't realize that we had met and stuff. But you got to understand, I am old. I'm old, man, and I get forgetful and everything else. So, but I'm glad I could jump in here with you guys a little bit tonight. I hear you were talking about Tony Romo, and I see you trying to stir some shit up, right?
No, he actually wasn't. We was more so kind of ranking the 2016 and 2017 quarterbacks, and mine was maybe a little bit out the box. And we only brought up Romo just to kind of make a case, that injuries do matter, and you have to put that in the gumbo.
Yeah, but no, hold on. Stop. Let me ask you this. Is Bo Jackson in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Does he deserve to go in the Hall of Fame? Does he deserve to go in the Hall of Fame? Because I got to tell you, what he did was unbelievable. And had he stayed healthy, you can't tell me that he wouldn't have been the most electrifying running back of all time. But unfortunately, what happened?
He got injured. He got hit by Cincinnati Bengals. Broke his hip. He was done.
And that's where you got to look at it and say, I appreciate what Romo did. And I know Romo fans are going to probably be cussing me out here in a minute. But I'm sorry, you got all these records, with the Cowboys and everything else, but you got to look back and say it was different eras that they played in, and that's part of the reason why those numbers are as big as they are. But I'm not sure that on what his playoff record and everything else is going to be enough to go ahead and get him in there. Because I'll be honest with you, I look at Eli Manning and say Eli Manning shouldn't go into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He's got 2 rings and 2 MVPs.
To make it in the Hall of Fame, it's really not really about, it is about your accomplishment, but it's really about your accomplishment against your peers. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's going to kill Romo is, yes, he played as good as his peers, but a lot of times his peers just had flat out better teams. You know what I'm saying? Like in 2014, Tony Romo was better than Aaron Rodgers. But guess what? Aaron Rodgers had a better team than Tony Romo, regardless of Tony Romo having to rush in the ramp or anything. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's why I think that Tony Romo, he's not gonna. Does he have the stats? Yes, but when they're not gonna put like 4 or 5 quarterbacks in from one era.
No, they're not. And he's going against Tom Brady, who's already out there. Okay, you've got Drew Brees, who's going to be out there, and things like that. So you've got other quarterbacks you're going to look in there and say, because Donovan McNabb, and here's the thing with Donovan McNabb, who's out there talking about, I got better stats than Troy Aikman, which goes back to the original thing. Troy Aikman had people around him. And this whole argument that Dak Prescott has to have people around him. Troy Aikman had a hell of a lot of people around him and didn't have to have great numbers, but he's got those Super Bowl rings and head of America's team. Unfortunately, what Tony Romo is going to be known for is the lack of the playoff success.
I actually think Tony Romo is going to make it into the Hall of Fame, and it's going to be in record time. And I hear your case, and I understand your case, because your case is based on merit. On merit alone, he doesn't deserve it. The main reason I think he's going to make it into the Hall of Fame, Mark, is because I think the Hall of Fame has now become more so about the networks trying to market themselves. It's not about if you deserve it. You know what I mean? That's why you see people like LaDainian in there, right? Even though LaDainian,
LaDainian Thomas. Okay.
no,
Dog,
but I'm not
his numbers, what he did, rushing and all that, he was one of the top ones.
He did it on rushing, but he also didn't have a lot of success in terms of rings. And then same thing we can say in terms of production, who had a short career was the other running back from Denver. And he got in the Hall of Fame. And I'm just thinking,
Super Bowl rings and a 2,000-yard season.
But it's a trend that these networks want to validate themselves, because at the end of the day, I think it's about money. When you're analyst and one of your top paid analysts, you can put on their resume and say Hall of Fame Tony Romo analyst. It makes your network have more validity, and everybody wins. So from merit, I think you did right, Mark. I think he doesn't deserve it and shouldn't get it.
He's not going
but from capitalism, I think capitalism is going to push him over. And everybody really loved Romo. Romo is a very likable guy. And I think that's that reason alone, because if it was just truly based on numbers, why did they take T.O. through the ringer like that? You see what I'm saying? So it's some politics that weighs into it as well.
Politics that always go in there. That's the reasons why they keep you out, because Charles Haley was the first man and only the second one to get 5 rings. Haley.
Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens is the biggest case of that. Like bigger than Charles. Like you can hate him or like him, but bro, there's only one other person in the world who has more receiving yards than Terrell Owens. His name is Jerry Rice. There are 2 other receivers who have less yards than Terrell Owens, who got into the Hall before he did. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm saying, like, honestly, that Terrell Owens is a way bigger case than anybody on the politics when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
I apologize for cutting you off. Terrell was my first Dez. I'm sorry.
but because I mean, okay, come on, let's go through. I'm gonna pull up his stats real quick because I can't remember them offhand. But when you talk about having Aaron Rodgers out there right now, who's got a ring and known as the bad man, and like I said, Drew Brees and Tom Brady and stuff, they're not going to take Tony Romo with Phillip Rivers with Tony Romo with 3,400 yards and only 248 TDs. I'm sorry. There's nothing on that resume, and I know I'm going to get hate mail and stuff on it, but I'm sorry. Tony Romo is not deserving to be in there for that. Not for that. And I hear what you're saying that, it's a
money.
No, the Hall don't care about that money.
Yeah.
The Hall don't care about that money because there are a lot of guys that should be. I mean, you could look at Woodson. Woodson should be in there. He was, an analyst and everything else working for ESPN and stuff. And he's the Dallas Cowboys all-time leading tackler. And he's not in there. Do you honestly believe that Tony Romo played a Hall of Fame career? Because I look at going in there and seeing like Ken Stabler, I see, Roger Staubach, I see Troy Aikman's, I see people that changed the game, people that were instrumental in winning Super Bowls and things like that. And, I just don't see that from Tony Romo. Tony Romo was a very good quarterback. Very good quarterback. But you're really judged on that one thing? What is it that 32 teams all go for?
Yeah, the ring.
Ring.
Yeah, go for the ring. And honestly, not even to take rings in consideration, because Archie Manning ain't got no rings, and he ain't even have a winning season in the NFL, and he's in the Hall of Fame right now.
Well, that's true.
What I'm saying? So and now this is where my thoughts on it is this. Tony Romo it's about who you are going to be going. Tony Romo is this is the best analogy I could give. He's in the exact same situation that Klay Thompson's in. And the situation is this. When they go to vote for all pros in basketball, they say Steph Curry, they say Kevin Durant. Should Klay Thompson be in there? Yes. But guess what? They're not going to give 3 Golden States that opportunity. Exact same thing with Tony Romo. When you look at the quarterbacks who he's against, Tom Brady, a gang of rings. Phillip, I'm going to tell you a quarterback that is silently a Hall of Famer that nobody ever talks about, but I've watched him my entire career, and he is single-handedly the only player I've ever wanted the Cowboys to trade person for person for, and that's Phillip Rivers. There was a time where I wanted the Cowboys to trade. I wanted to trade him and Matthew Stafford. I went back and forth. But if you go look at Phillip Rivers' stats, bro, he's Hall of Fame.
Right.
Like starters, and you got to think about it like this. It's the writers it's the writers. It's not it's the old school writers that are picking this, and the other people in the hall, they're gonna value that. That's why I think like these new age quarterbacks, like the Dak Prescotts and the Lamar Jacksons, it's gonna be hard for them guys to get in the hall.
Yeah, well, you just actually brought up an interesting point here, because when you hold
them guys to get in the hall, because they're like the Jackie Robinsons of their style of quarterback playing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna get time for them to get used to that. So that's why I think when it comes down to it, man, you got Tom, you got Phillip, you got Breeze, and you got freaking
Aaron Rodgers.
And I'm gonna tell you something else that's gonna go against him. They all are continuing to play.
Yeah.
So think about this. When it comes time to be eligible, they'll be most fresh because they just finished playing.
And actually, West Coast, you brought up an interesting point too, because as you put it, the writers are the ones that are going to be voting him in. And when you think about the narrative about the Dallas Cowboys and Tony Romo was always known as Tony Ono. Tony was known as the guy who couldn't win the big one. Tony Romo was known as the guy who couldn't play in December. So that's what you're facing with those guys that are going to have to vote him in. And like you said, if you end up taking Tony Romo, then you got to take Eli. You got to take, like you said, Phillip Rivers. You got to take Aaron Rodgers. You got to take Tom Brady. And let's see, who else do we need to put in there?
Tom's getting in.
Oh, well, we know Tom may have to not even get the 5 years to have to wait, you know. They may make an exception with him.
Who's your guarantee? Let's just say it like this. Who are your, from the Tony Romo era, who are your guaranteed, can we say, because we got 3 people on here. Who we say are the guaranteed guys getting in?
Tom Brady, of course.
We can say Tom.
I'm going to say, because for the sentimental, I will say actually Drew Brees, because he changed the franchise.
Tom and Drew, that's 2 right there.
Okay.
That's first ballot.
Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers is
of course. In. Yeah, the bad man.
First ballot.
Yeah.
And then if they got 3 quarterbacks, there's no way they're putting in 3 quarterbacks. That's 3 right there.
How about Ben Roethlisberger?
2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, he getting in for sure.
You know?
That's what I'm saying. There's so much. For them to put Tony Romo in, like,
I'm gonna tell you how they gonna get Romo in.
I see what you're saying, though, boss.
It's gonna be they gonna get Romo in over the story. It's gonna be how they tell the story. This undrafted free agent, who was at the bottom, who was almost cut. If if Quincy wouldn't have had the bout with drugs, he probably would have been cut. They gonna romanticize the story so smooth, man.
That sounds like a great Lifetime movie now. Okay, all right, but I'm sorry. That's got no.
I can't argue your case on merit. Merit, you're right, Mark.
No, because they all listen. They already look and say there's too many Dallas.
You make room for that guy. You create stories for that guy when you like a guy, and he is killing it too much on television for people not to say, man, let's just go on.
No. See, that's homosexuals that will say that, but no, everybody else will be like, oh, hell no.
I will make a public wager right now that Romo is getting in this Hall of Fame.
He is not getting in there, though.
Y'all can do that on the side, man, because in the state of California, it is illegal to put plagiarism.
Oh, it is?
Not at all, but
okay.
I just want to let you know, if you want to put some push-ups on, I don't know if Mark Home back good for it, but I'll put him on there, Mark, because I know, I love me some Tony Romo, but I don't want to make nobody mad, but honestly, 2 people that they deserve to be in the Ring of Honor, but they don't have Hall of Fame, they don't have it, is Tony Romo. I don't want to say it out loud. You know what I'm saying? If you heard what I said,
I'm sorry, who?
Don't say that out loud.
I didn't hear who you said.
You know what I said.
I did not. No, honestly, I did not. Because I turned down my volume because my man's blowing my eardrums. So you're kind of soft.
You gonna make me say it again on air, Mark? That's messed up. I said Tony Romo. Who cares? Hey, I'm sorry, y'all.
No, well, yeah.
Stop. Hold on.
But see,
but he don't have. I know people be wanting to say West Coast, they doing Drew wrong, but I went and looked at the stats, y'all.
Yeah, but and the problem for him is he's playing against the Steelers. Okay, in that era.
I'm just saying. That's your era. I'll let you.
But see, you've also got other guys in there that should be thought of before Tony Romo. Emerson Walls. and Woodson.
True.
Both of those guys. There's no,
They
if they
should be over him, no
okay.
doubt.
If they
No
put
doubt.
Romo in and don't have those two guys, come on, man. Then
Real not fair, and we know it's not fair already.
right.
So
Hey,
if you could give one Cowboy the nod out of all the Cowboys that have been screwed, and we got to decide on one quarter coin. I think this is a good.
Woodson.
I think this is a good article. A good
Woodson.
article. I think this is a good article coming up. If you could give one Cowboy the nod who has not gotten the nod, who would it be?
Woodson.
I think it would have to be Woodson, man.
Woodson.
It would have to be.
3
No doubt,
rings.
Woodson.
Dallas Cowboys all-time leading tackler, part of a dynasty.
Yeah.
You got to.
We got Peterson.
Yeah, I mean, a safety that could come down and cover the nickel. I mean, cover the number 3.
Mhm.
You'd never have to worry about nickels. Oh man, you can't. You don't find a guy like that in like 40 years.
Oh, Nathan just said something. Oh my God, I forgot about. Say, OG. What about Hollywood?
Hollywood Henderson?
You know it, man. What about
His
Too
career
Tall?
was short.
What about Too Tall?
Right, too tall. Yeah, and see the problem. And here's the other problem that you have, boss Cowboys. You know, my man that I've met is you look at how many Dallas Cowboy players are already in there from all those different eras already. There's already the whole thing where people feel like there's too many Cowboys, and like you just put it, you know, Ed Too Tall Jones. How the hell is he not in there? I mean, you're talking about a generational type of a player. So, I mean, there's so many ones that are more deserving than Tony Romo. I'm sorry. And I know the Romo sexual is going to be coming out the closet. They're going to be coming after me and everything else. But I'm sorry. I don't think he's got it.
And see, y'all actually made my case.
Hey, can I say something real quick? Hey, you guys got to remember, the reason why Hollywood Henderson's stats are so weird is because for a large portion of his career, they did not count sacks. So,
Yeah.
so we feel he's a great player. And think about this. There's like 4.5 years of his career, the beginning of his career, where the NFL counted sacks as tackles. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember that when you're looking, you got to see the whole picture. But if you look, Hollywood Henderson was one of the best linebackers. Come on, man. Y'all, I ain't about to get into all that, but go ahead, man.
So I'm gonna say this: if it was about merit, then those guys. If it was really about playing merit, then those guys would be in. So if we making the merit case, then we're not making the case based on precedent, are we? No. So partially, we have to look at it for how it is. That partially the Hall of Fame is about popularity.
Okay. All right.
But you got to remember the Cowboys were dominant too, so you can't. They basically punished us for being really good. Remember when the Pro Bowl happened and we sent 11 guys to the Pro Bowl?
Yeah. But that shows that it's not about merit. That shows. Because if it was about merit, if it was about what you really earned and deserve, Darren Woodson would have been in.
All right. Okay. Hold. Okay. Let me put this one thing in here. I'm gonna read this real quick. Drew Brees, 74,000 yards. Peyton Manning, 71. Brett Favre. We forgot about Peyton Manning. How did we forget Peyton Manning on there too? Okay. Brett Favre, 71,000. Tom Brady, 70,000. Dan Marino, 61. Ben Roethlisberger, 56. Eli Manning, 55. Phillip Rivers, 54. John Elway, 51. Warren Moon, 49 plus the 21 in Canada. Fran Tarkenton, 47. Matt Ryan, 46. Carson Palmer, 46. Vinny Testaverde, 46. Drew Bledsoe, 44. Dan Fouts, 43. Aaron Rodgers, 42. Kerry Collins, 40,000. Joe Montana, 40,000. Johnny Unitas, 40,000. That's the top 20. You've got Carson Palmer. You got Kerry Collins with more yards than Tony Romo. Sorry, I'm looking down that list.
Yeah, and let me defend myself because there's some folks that's giving me hell right now for my Drew Pearson comment. But like, yo, I love Drew P. Like Drew Pearson's probably the one player that I probably bump in like we know Drew P. You know what I'm saying? Like we know Drew P. And I love Drew. But I'm just saying, like, even if you ask, because I remember the first time I met Drew Pearson, he kind of embarrassed me a little bit, but not a lot, because I had to go back and realize what he said. Because what he told me is, I was like, you know, I'm here with the legendary Drew Pearson who made the great 88. And he said, no. He said, I didn't make it great. He said, Michael Irvin made 88 great. He's the one that actually made the 88 great. I was the first to wear it and start that legacy. If that came out of Drew's mouth,
Now here's the other thing with Drew Pearson though, where I kind of have to say maybe it's a little different because of the Dallas Cowboys dynasty and having the Hail Mary play being part of his icon, because that play is iconic. Because anytime, because if you're talking about sentimental reasons for Tony Romo to be in, there's nothing more sentimental than that play right there in itself. But you have to go all the way down to 32nd to get in career passing to get to Tony Romo. I mean, you've got guys like Steve DeBerg, Jim Hart, and Jim Everett, and even Jay Cutler that are ahead of him.
More yards?
In more yards. Jay Cutler has more yards than Tony Romo.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest with you, that is a major category. Like, that's a definition. You know how they say if you're not a man unless you're strong.
Matthew Stafford Matthew Stafford even has more. And, when you look at some of these guys like Jim Hart, you're talking about when they really didn't pass the football.
You said Jim who?
Jim Hart.
Hey, what about, can I ask you a question? What about, okay, so he don't got it in yards. Where Tony Romo in touchdowns?
Okay.
Actually,
let me look it up.
Let me find out. Now, let me defend myself on Drew P, because I love me some Drew. But what I'm saying is this. His best season was 8, as far as touchdowns, 8 seasons. Now, I know they didn't throw the ball a whole lot back then, and I'm not trying to knock him off that. But if you're looking at his stats, he definitely deserves to be in the ring. But as far as the Hall of Fame, man, my boy Drew has, in 12 years, he had 7,800 yards. That's less than almost 800 yards a season. You know what I'm saying? So, I think when they look at what the receivers were doing in that era, even though they weren't throwing the ball as much, they were throwing the ball more. Well, I think that's why, Drew doesn't get the nod. But I mean, I love Drew as a guy, and I love him as what he's done for this organization, man.
Well, Tony Romo is 22nd. He's got Drew Bledsoe ahead of him, Dan Fouts, Sonny Jurgensen, Dave Craig, Joe Montana, Vinny Testaverde, Johnny Unitas, Warren Moon, Carson Palmer, Matt Ryan, John Elway, Aaron Rodgers, Fran Tarkenton. Eli Manning has 360. Wow. Eli's got 112 more than Romo.
You know what this makes me feel like?
Who's that?
It makes me feel like maybe Tony Romo does have all the records for Dallas Cowboys, but it feels like maybe the Dallas Cowboy quarterback statistically just didn't throw the ball a whole lot.
Well, okay, here's the funny. Okay, now you're understanding. You're understanding.
It makes me think maybe we throw the ball a whole lot.
See, it's not even a maybe to That's a fact.
See, here's the thing. There's a perception and then there's reality, because Troy Aikman is 73rd with only 165 touchdowns. Troy Aikman only had one season where he threw more than 20 touchdown passes. But see, everybody has this idea that, oh my God, Troy Aikman, he was a great passer and he's throwing. No. The Dallas Cowboys' identity has always been to be a running team.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, we've always had a great running back, because look at, you've got Tony Dorsett, Hall of Famer. You got Emmitt Smith, Hall of Famer. Zeke Elliott, if he can stay out of trouble and play for 10 years, Hall of Famer. You follow me? And it's always been that we have great defense, we have a ball control offense, and we have a whole lot of good people around. And that's the whole thing that everybody keeps saying, well, we need, guys going to throw 5,000 yards. That's not the Dallas Cowboys identity.
It's never been us.
Yeah. That's why when you look at these numbers and see, people will be like, wait a minute, Troy Aikman only had 165 touchdown passes? Pat Mahomes could do that in like 3.5 years.
Hey, Mark, think about this. He only threw 163 touchdowns, won 3 Super Bowls, though. Think about this. Tony Romo has 240 some touchdowns, because Tony Romo has 100 touchdowns more than Troy Aikman and has 27 interceptions less than him.
Yeah,
but people will still say that Troy Aikman is a better quarterback than Tony Romo. But I do believe that Tony Romo is probably the second best quarterback of our franchise. Mm-hmm. But when you put it to the whole, it's a different picture.
And so from that point, like, and Wesco said this before, if you let people talk, they'll go ahead and answer their own questions. That's true. So one of the things Mark raised the point, he said, look at yards, right, as a measuring stick of whether Romo is deserving. But then if you also add in style of offense, you really can't look at yards, right? If you add more to the equation, right? So it's the same thing with Dak. It's people want the impossible with Dak. People want Dak to throw 300 yards, a 350, but they still want us to be a run first team.
Okay.
You asking for what's impossible. So you have to factor in the style of offense if you factor in greatness. That's why Aikman is in the Hall of Fame, because we obviously was a run first offense. So if you look at him according to numbers, he look anemic. He looks like he's not worthy. But if you look at him according to when his numbers were called to throw the ball, he was
Okay.
amazing.
But
You can
see,
say the same thing with Romo. You can say the same thing with Dak. And you can say the same thing with Aikman. You can say the same thing. So that's why we can't use yards, because we know we're a run first team, and we've been a run first team for most of these quarterbacks' careers. So when
yes.
people look at it in its totality, they're going to have to not look at just yards as a measure stick of Romo's greatness, because everybody, even Jerry said, I feel like I failed him because we learned how to build late. So they start getting it right after Will McClay. But then that's when Romo was starting to break down, and it was just too late.
Yeah, I can rock with you on that, and I actually hope that prevails. I'm just being real with you, because if 9 goes to the Hall of Fame, I'm going to Ohio. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Somebody in Ohio told me that there's nothing good in Ohio, so I was like, I'm not going to Ohio.
I've been to. Hey, I tell you what, I've been to the Hall of Fame.
I know you have, but I'm just saying.
And I tell you
from
what,
there-
you actually should go in there, because you're going to see some stuff that you will not believe that's in there and stuff, man. When you
I
see
believe it, but what I'm saying is it'd be
these
hot.
leather face masks that they had that looked like you got a bird beak around your nose and stuff, and looked like, maybe it was from like a Klan rally or something like that. When you see these helmets that have like the cage that wraps around them and everything else, it's like, damn, did they actually wear some of this stuff? But it's actually worth the trip to go. And when I went was 2013, when Larry Allen went in, and it was unbelievable. I mean, it truly was a great event. But here's the thing that is a misnomer, because there's fact and there's reality. Because if you go through some of Tony Romo's best years, where he's thrown over 4,000 yards and stuff, are some of the worst years we had. 2011 threw for 4,184 yards, and we're 8-8. 2012 threw for 4,900 yards, 8-8. So having a whole lot of yards is not necessarily winning football. In fact, I will go through and say, I would have rather, when we played Matt Flynn's Green Bay Packers, that we would have had less yards passing, because we passed more in the second half when we were up 26-3, and we ended up throwing that game away. We had 2 games against the Lions where we were up by 3 touchdowns, and we kept throwing the ball in the second half, and we allowed the other team to come back. And those are the things that people will look back and they'll say, you had opportunities. Yes, you had that great game against the Denver Broncos and stuff, but you had that pick at the wrong time. Now, granted, the defense did not bust a grape. I will say that it was on the defensive fault. Side for losing that game. If they had had just one damn stop in that game, we would have won it. But people will point to and say, well, Tony Romo, he choked. That's what they're going to say when it comes to that. And see, this is the thing. You look at 2014, Tony Romo only had 3,700 yards. But look what we were able to do with the team. It was because the team was back to the Dallas Cowboys type football. We run the ball, control the clock. The defense wasn't great. They were only ranked 19th, but they got takeaways. They were second in the NFL getting the ball. And that is what always has worked in the Dallas Cowboys. It's always been their identity. The doomsday defense, the doomsday defense too back in the 90s, and having a bellwether running back. And the quarterback then will make spectacular plays. Don't get me wrong, because Roger Staubach always was Captain Comeback. But it's not like Dan Fouts that had to win the game every single week throwing 300 and 400 yards.
Yeah, and also think about this too. Think about this. I also because I think a lot of, people get this thought of Romo, I don't think there's ever, you cannot tell me that someone choked their career when the very record that you love to hang over Dak as Mr. Comeback, well, guess what? He took that record from Romo. Romo had that record first. Yeah. So you can't say that Romo was a choke if he had the exact same record.
Okay, listen, I'm not saying that he is, but that's the narrative.
I just want to clear that up. But it also, this is what you also got to think of too. in those years that we were 8-8, I don't say that it was because we were more dependent on Romo throwing. It's because we had to. I think if you go into any team and look at it where your quarterback is required to throw the ball 35 and 45 times, guess what you're going to do? You're going to have more opportunities to throw more interceptions.
Yes.
That's just obvious. You know what I'm saying? Just like when they say, and I'm not knocking that because that's my quarterback, but don't come at me talking about someone's great with the ball. If you throw the ball 24, 25 times on average, bro, that is obviously you're going to have less times to throw an interception. That's a part of the game. I'm okay with that. But what I'm saying is when we had Romo, our offense was predicated on us throwing the ball 40 times.
And we weren't successful doing that very many times. Yeah.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is you can't put that on Romo, because that's what the offense was. Think about this. There are a ton of offenses that throw a lot of interceptions. And guess what? You never think about it. Matt Ryan throws interceptions.
Because they're not the Dallas Cowboys covered to the nth degree. Listen, because the Dallas Cowboys, here's the thing. You see, if Dak makes a bad play, it is played on SportsCenter, it's played on First Take, it's played on NFL Network and stuff. But guess what? Matty Ice makes it. It's not going around the rounds. So you see Dak Prescott, you see Tony Romo breaking down all the time, and you figure this is the only guy that's got these issues because he's the only guy that really will cover that way. You don't see, Jameis Winston out there, all the boneheaded plays and stuff he has, or Ryan Fitzpatrick, all the interceptions he throws. You see, if it's a game or it's a bad statistics, Dak Prescott, they'll show. Because here's the thing that's interesting. If you go through in 2014, how many games do you think that Tony Romo threw for over 300 yards?
Not many. We were blowing in 2014. We were blowing teams out. The run game was killing.
One time did he throw over 300 yards in 2014? Just one.
And I think it was in London, right?
When I believe it was.
We played the Rams.
One game. But see, everybody's thinking that Tony Romo, because it's perception versus reality. Everybody's thinking, well, Tony Romo's throwing for 300 yards every game. If Dak Prescott has to throw for 300 yards every game, we're losing a lot of games.
Yep.
That's not the way this team is done. Because people keep talking about dinking and dunking. Well, you know what? Joe Montana dinked and ducked his way to 4 Super Bowls into the Hall of Fame because that offense, basically the West Coast, is a dinking and dunking offense, giving the wide receiver the ball where they can make a play. Because Joe Montana did not have the strongest of arms. And when we can go ahead and get 10, 12 yards in a pass play and stay in bounds and that clock is still running, we're controlling the tempo of the game. When you go down and you're throwing bombs left and right, you're taking off 6-7 seconds off the clock if it's an incompletion or the guy goes out of bounds. And we've had more times where we've left too much damn time on the clock. You are better off being able to control the tempo, and then when your defense comes out on the field, they're fresh and they're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I want to make one more statement on Romo, and then I want to move to 2019 if y'all okay with that.
Well, go ahead. I want to finish something up. Go ahead. Say what you got to say.
Just real quick, what made Romo great is also what made him very bad, right? Because yes, he did have a lot of comebacks during the regular season, right? Mm-hmm. But in do-or-die games, when it was win or go home, we went home too many times on the run.
What are you talking about? We did the same thing with Dak, man. Stop this.
I got facts on this. Hold on. I got facts on this, brother. I got facts on this. I'm talking about do or die.
Do or die games. We're 1-4 with Dak right now. Do or die. 2016, we lost. I'm
talking about Romo. Okay. We can talk about Dak. We can talk about Dak too. But I'm talking about Romo for right now. Then we can go to Dak. But I'm talking about Romo right now. And Romo in do or die games when we needed to win against the Giants, he threw it.
Who else was on the team?
Look. I'm talking about what he did in the key moments when we needed him not to. So when it comes down to do or die games, Romo died a lot. Now the time he didn't.
With what team? That's what
you gotta let me finish. You gotta let me finish. I answer what team because he did it a lot of teams.
Okay.
Like to say he did not do that is just not recording right history. Because actually, if you look up in Google right now, if you Google right now, Romo costly turnovers, ESPN got top 5 costly Romo turnovers.
Look at the score.
Are you gonna let me finish?
Look at the score. No, because bro, that's
No, I'm talking about top 5 time. It happened over 5 times, West Coast. I know it hurt to hear me talk about Romo,
Okay.
but I just spent a lot of time talking about he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm obviously not hating on Romo. I'm spitting the facts on Romo in do or die games. Now, in regular season, he killed it. Like, we know he was killing comeback in regular season. But when it was like, you got to win this game or it's over with, usually at the end, it was Romo at the end that threw a costly interception.
That is, and you know what? And this is what I have to say. This is what I have to say.
Now, this is what makes me say this. And then I'm gonna let you have it. You can say you can love Romo all day. I'm cool with that.
No, because it's not about no. Let's use the correct terminology, because when you say love on Romo, you're insisting that I'm saying this because of my love for Romo. No, that has nothing to do with it. In each game, there has never been a do or die game where Tony Romo did not have to score over 30 points. Go look at those stats. So you tell me in 5.
I'm saying in the key moment,
Whoa.
in the last drive,
hold on.
It happened 5 times to us, West Coast. Under Romo, on the last drive where we needed him not to make the mistakes. And it makes me say this. It makes me say this. I'm going to say this to the day that I die. I'm going to be right to the day that I die. The yards is way overrated, and ball protection is way underrated. That's why I would take a boring Dak all day over a gambling quarterback who don't protect the football and can't
Exactly.
Okay. You know, okay. I'm gonna leave listen. I'm gonna give you the final argument here on Tony Romo. Okay.
Wait, hold on. Let me say my piece.
Oh, this is your show. I'm sorry.
Let me say my piece. Not to get you, because I gotta say my piece. Because this is what I don't like about the narrative about Romo. Is because the make or break games that we had to beat. Why are we even in those games? You tell me this. When we were 8-8. What player was keeping us in 3 seasons of 8-8? The first season of 8-8, we got eliminated week 15. The second season of 8-8, we got eliminated week 14. The third season of going 8-8, we got eliminated week 16, the very final game in the season. Now you tell me what quarterback has kept an 8-8 team, a team that's not even supposed to be in the playoffs, relevant. Now my question is this. Why in the hell did we have to keep putting Romo in a position to put on a damn cape to go save our season 5 times? That's what I'm saying. We helped Romo way more than we helped Dak Prescott. Not even by helping him, but off of what we walked into. That's what I'm saying. That's the narrative of what I'm saying with Tony Romo, is because too many people get this. Oh yeah, he threw an interception. Okay, he threw an interception against my boy Peyton Manning against the Denver Bronco games. But that was before he threw 4 touchdowns and 505 yards. But he threw the one costly interception. One. So my thing is this: why was it that Tony Romo was required to score 35 and 40 points in order for us to win games? No help. That's what I'm saying. Dak doesn't have to do that. All Dak has to do is keep it close and get us one good drive in the fourth quarter, and we're going to win. Want to know why? Because he has help. He has assistance. Oh. So that's all I'm saying. That's the main thing I'm saying with Romo. Don't try to preach this, he threw in costly games in make or breaks, because if that's the case, why is Dak not in the same conversation then? Why do you have that same faith in Dak if that's the case? Because I can name you 4 go-home games in the last 3 years that we've lost.
Okay, so this is the difference between what you're saying and what I'm saying.
The first one was Green Bay. Mm-hmm. The second one was Seattle when we got Ezekiel Elliott back. That was a win or go home game. We lost that game. What else? Let's think about the 2 games this year. When we went to Indianapolis and we were supposed to win that game to win a division, I think that's a pretty important game. But we lost that game. And since we're going to count the Rams game, shoot, bro, they're in the same boat. Whenever you put a team in a position where it is 100, where your quarterback has to move and do things, unless it's Tom Brady, bro, you always going to have faults.
Okay, all right.
So that's what I'm saying.
We're getting a little too passionate here, okay?
Yeah, my boy, calm down, man.
Right.
But you messing up, though. Let me tell you where you messing up. You counting the loss as if the loss itself was on Dak. I'm saying this is the difference. Hold on. Okay. West Coast. You don't have to let me finish, bro.
I actually,
I'm 5 seconds into what I'm saying.
I actually have to go. But let me, because this is not my normal night. I have a wife that I got to make sure I take care of.
Dak don't turn the ball over like Romo. He led the NFL in turnovers.
No,
That's what I'm talking about. He fumbled the ball. Okay. What are you talking about?
Okay, so I'm gonna say it.
Let me
Mark, I know you're not used to this, but this happens. Okay. Okay, so this is the specifics of what I'm saying. In the last drive, where the quarterback has to throw the win.
Why did he have to throw?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Okay.
Let's go. You fine. Go ahead, bro. You got it.
Okay.
We can go to 2019 now.
Okay. And again, we can all believe what we want to believe and stuff. And I'm just telling you, I'm trying to give you my perspective on it. But here's the thing. When you're talking about win and go home, in the playoffs, Tony Romo has averaged 219 yards, 1.3 touchdown passes per game, and a 61 completion percentage.
Yeah.
And can I ask you a question? Now let's name the weapons. He had a young Dez, and not even giving any excuses. The team, that's what I'm saying. Like, what I don't. Tony Romo right now, we can say all that, but he has 2 playoff wins. Mm-hmm. He has 4 playoff losses. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott in the exact same situation. So this is what I'm saying. You cannot be this I don't like when people have this negative connotation toward Romo, but then they look at Dak and has the exact same stats, but then you see confidence. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, but anyway,
it's not the same. I'm saying the last drive.
I love this conversation, guys. But I got to go home.
We needed the last drive in LA, and what happened on 4th and 1? We got stopped. What are you talking about? We had the 4th
guys.
in LA. We got stopped.
Was that on Dak, man? Will you be honest?
Okay, all right. I love you guys, but I gotta go.
Mark gotta go.
I gotta go, man.
Let them know where they find you at.
All right, but hey, you can check me out on Monday and Friday nights on Jobu Sports Report and all that. I would love to continue this going, but I've got some paperwork I got to take care of because I do have to have a day job and stuff. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Everybody, check out Dallas Cowboys Scouting, and be sure to subscribe to their channel and everything else. So thank you guys for letting me be on here, but I got to go.
Hey, I'm going to tell y'all right now, we are not settling down. It is June 4th. If this is not what you really want, that real adulterated cowboy talk, then subscribe. I mean, for real. You know what I'm saying? This is June. This is June 4th. We have nothing else to do today. Boss Cowboy, what do you have to do today?
All right. I'll see you guys.
I'm chilling, but Mark, man, definitely enjoyed you all the time. Can't wait till you come back.
All right, man. I'll see you later. Okay, everybody, I got to go out of here. We were just joining in on West Coast live stream and stuff, and I got to go spend some time with my wife. So thank everybody for being here, and let me I am just like all discombobulated.
All right, so Mark, we got Mark.
Yeah, let's go though. Let's go. We can continue.
Okay, so we are getting out of here right now. I'll see you guys soon.
The party's over. They say that all. Good things must end. Call it